Hello, hello. It is Sunday today. How is it Sunday already? So, on the good news front, I have taken off the, now washed, previous strips, and, well, frankly, it seems my choice is made for me. How do I mean? Well, you may recall we had a couple of joins on the go. And part of the problem was that one looked really good but was lopsided. The other looked really, really bold. Well, post-washing, they haven't held up that well. So, let me show you what I mean. Now, it doesn't look quite as good as I hoped. There we go. Let's move this up a bit. So, this is the bold one, and it still looks bold. This one still looks a lot like there's a bit missing, and this was the new improved, right? Well, the problem is, and let me do the old kind of boomer art, that's the bold one hasn't retained the loop shapes. The missing one has now formed a dead straight line, which we were trying to avoid, and the new one is the only one that's held looking like the shapes that it should. So, kind of, it looks like the decision has been made for us. I am currently, yes, we know that this one's looking a little bit dirty. This is because these all got washed. This one hasn't. I am trying to do a zigzag and then go back with a zigzag. But nothing would then... Part of the reason this one failed is that, and it's not very easily explainable, but when I did, because this was a zigzag, right, bear with me a sec, but only in one direction. So basically, although I laid two loops over each other, I would go up this one, you know, but I didn't go up this one, down this one, up this one, down this one. It was kind of up this one, down the next one. So only, there are basically loops where the ends flap, right? This is what's caused most of this. The reason there is a straight line here, obviously, is I pulled it quite tight. And what's happened is the tops of each of the loops, where there is the join, not that you can see it too well because, as I said, wretched camera's still not doing the button thing, and it's very difficult to hold it up and show you. But if I bring it, where is it? It is there, but where's my hand? There it is. If you still probably can't see, but where there is a straight line, there's like the V from the stitch that holds it together, but the straight line has been formed by the tops of the bibbles that were meeting, because obviously what happens is it went up here, looped around this one and went back down. But the problem is this then has flattened out, leaving like a little diamond shape on top of this. Not that I can do this with fingers, but you know, it's made like a little diamond shape on the end of a bibble, and so it then looks kind of wrong. This is the only one that has held up. Now obviously there is a bit of a bold to it, but it has really well held its shape, and from, you know, in person it doesn't look, you know, you have to have almost the right angle. I mean, this bit looks a bit bold, but if I, you know, for the most part, like down here, it doesn't look as bold here to me as it does on camera, right? So this is why the Bucks point would work better, because, well, the Bucks point would be a single thread and there would not be. Now, annoyingly, here's my needle, because I have joined these two at the very, very top. I don't know where the other needle went. I can't find it for love nor money. I've spent 2 hours looking for it. Now, my table is not actually that messy. I mean, it's not that tidy either, I'm going to grant you that. But there should be a bit of yarn hanging out the bottom of it. It's not where I put it. And, well, 2 hours of hunting later, I've had to go and get a different one. So, I'm slightly annoyed with myself because I can't find it. But this one's pretty much identical, so it doesn't really matter that much. But it's more a case of where did it go? Now, this is the story of my life. Where did it go? Because I really thought it was in my pincushion. Can't find it. It's not in the other pincushion. Can't find it. It's not in the top of my plastic thing where I put my lace making tools. It's not there. It's not sticking out of the mouse mat, which is the other place, nor is it on my magnets. But I also can't find it on the floor. And the dog's been digging a hole in the garden. So, yeah. It's been an interesting morning. But we're at where we're at. I'm just so annoyed that I can't find the needle. And it's one of those, but how can it have disappeared kind of thing? I mean, remember I lost my pin lifter? This one, right? Well, it was kind of interesting because couldn't find it for love nor money. I looked everywhere. And 2 days ago, there it was, just sitting blatantly on the floor. And it's like, you were definitely not there. Sure, I've seen something that could be a pin, or it could be a needle. I think it's either. No, it was neither. So I'm very confused as to where it's gone. Because, you know, it's not a small needle. It's not like, you know, pins that are quite thin. I mean, it's quite a chunky thing. Gee, I don't know where that's gone. I know at one point I tried to take it into the kitchen, and I think that might have been its downfall, is I put it somewhere safe. But I really thought I'd put it on the table in here, where it lives. But it seems I have killed it. I will no doubt find it at some point. But I don't know where it is. So, as I said, this I'm trying something very similar to this, but more in the Bucks Point style, where there will be a crossing, but there's nothing holding the tops of the loops together. And to be honest, the more I think about it, the more dumb that sounds. But that's that bit. But today we are going to bring this down to about this line here, and well, we're gonna chop off bobbins and be good. As I say, I need to keep an eye on where the dog's going, because the little buggers have been digging a hole in my lawn. Now, I am not, you know, my garden is not exactly presentable to the king of the nation, but at the same time, I do not need holes dug in it by dog. Oh, fuck's sake. Seriously. I mean, you kind of think it would be long enough, but it's probably not. And there are quite a few of them that are getting down to the last few inches of string, and the problem is we all know I want to do the Bucks Point effort afterwards, so I don't know, it's just It is just one of those things. Yeah, look, this is good. So it's Sunday, which means back at work tomorrow. Looking forward to the end of the month. Got a week off. I'm not planning on doing much with it, of course, but still. I might see if I can make it 2. A bit more. Or almost 2. I haven't got the holiday necessarily for 2. But I do have I think it's 26 hours or something. So I could add 4 days to it. Some music on in a minute. The doorbell may go. Depends what time the Amazon man comes. Because someone here forgot to order toilet roll when she did her grocery shopping. So she has summoned the art of Amazon to send her some. So going all the way back just to get bloody toilet roll. And considering it costs about the same from Amazon, but is free delivery and takes time and effort and fighting lovely people who think that bringing their small children who don't want to be there to Tesco's or whatever is the greatest plan. I always find it difficult, and I'll explain when I get this end to stay where it is. There it is. I have a lot of sympathy for single parents, especially those who are not single by choice. For those who just have no idea who the dad is and it was, not a planned thing, that's a bit different. But for the single parent who had it thrust upon them, I do have a lot of sympathy because, you know, bringing up children was designed for two. And so, you can't exactly always, leave them at home when you need to go to the shops. When there are two of you, however, please leave your spawn of Satan at home with the other one, because not everyone wants to be party to um, your children's behaviour, and moreover, especially if they are not behaving particularly well. Hang on. We may want to step in and parent your children for you if you are proving to be suffering from the inability to do it yourself. And, don't then look miffed at us if we feel that you are lacking in controlling your children. And no, yes, we do understand children will be gentle, but at the same time, you've got to understand, we did not want your children, we did not ask for your children. Some of us just needed to buy a loaf of bread or whatever in peace, and the fact that your infinitely annoying child has been screaming for the last 20 minutes, and while you sit there talking to Sharon, or stand there, or whatever it is, please understand that we do not feel this is, kind of appropriate behaviour, because we can all remember the time that we tried something along those lines to our parents, and, well, we can probably still get the handprint of the slap that we got for the privilege. And, as I say, it's not that I don't have sympathy for single parents, because it's not an easy life. Now, some people aren't truly single parents, but are kind of single parents, in that one of them goes off and has to do things away from home. So therefore leaving one on their own to handle it all. Again, I have sympathy for that, because, there are two of you, but one of you's not there to do their bit. But again, that still doesn't make it our problem. And it's like the barking dog in the yard, right? No one necessarily minds dog goes out in the garden and finds something to bark at. What they do mind is 20 minutes later when they haven't heard shut up. And it's the being seen to try and contain it. If you're just standing there ignoring it, or like the lady who lives out back here, who has Bailey. Now, I had no idea what the dog was called until she spent the best part of 40 minutes going, Bailey, 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 Bailey. She didn't move 1 inch. The dog was clearly not coming. 40 minutes of her yelling, Bailey, almost, breathe in, shout Bailey on the way out, was just getting a bit much. And so I eventually went out and told her to go and get the fucking dog. It's not that I don't like dogs. Hello, I have two of my own, and frankly would have more if I had more hands and more house. But, again, it's the being annoying and not being seen to be doing something about it. And my next door neighbour's the same. She loves dogs. She's got a dog. She's got a cat. But Mrs. Lives Out Back is something that we both very much struggle with. Now, I feel for my neighbour because she's nearer than I am. So she would hear and see a lot more of it. But it's annoying enough here. And it's not that we don't necessarily blame the dog. I mean, it's not the best behaved thing in the history of the world, but the bigger problem is that Mrs. Lives Out Back, again, it's kind of, it sounds judgmental, but she's out a lot, so she's got a dog flap. But she's got about 5 dogs, and they can come and go in the garden as they like. But it also means they come out because someone's walked within, 20 foot of their house on the footpath that runs there, so they're allowed, and it can be 8 hours of barking. And, well, that's just not funny. It's also kind of not really legal in this country. But, like everything, getting it sorted isn't a particularly pleasant experience. Because, yes, you can make a complaint to the council, you then have to go through documenting it, you then end up doing things like having to have loads of sensors put up to record actual volume levels and frequencies and the like, and it takes months, all because someone is not being considerate about where they live. And even then, the council can write to them and say, you've been, it has been suggested that, you're a problem neighbour kind of thing. Please cease and desist your poor behaviour and, make more consideration. But, they have to. And, it can take a very long time if someone doesn't, if someone's doing something they shouldn't. So let's say they're running a car repair business from their house, and area that they're in or whatever that's not permitted. So for example, where I currently live, part of the ruling of where I live, and it's going to sound terrible, but it's actually not, is you must not have a company car with big logos on it. So you can't have a labelled company car. You can't have caravans or boats. So it sounds really restrictive, but at the same time, not if you don't have a, company vehicle, right? Where's the other one? Right. So, but, there can be restrictions. Now, it's not like a housing authority like the Americans have. It's really nothing like that, Paul. And to be honest, if I got a company car that said, Random Company Inc. on the side of it, I'm not sure my neighbours would really say or do anything. They'd probably ask, at worst, they'd probably ask if I could keep it in the garage. But to be honest, I really doubt they'd do that. But it is technically in the rules of the house that I bought. Whereas my old house didn't have quite the same restrictions. But my old house did also have on it, you cannot run it as your place of business. I.e., it is purely residential. Now, I work from home, and there is a bit of you that kind of goes, well, does that count? But it is not a place of business, it is where I work, and there is arguably a huge difference in that this is not the registered address of a business. Nor are people visiting me as part of that work. So it's not like, I don't know, I'm a hairdresser and they come here to get their hair done, because then it becomes a place of business. I am just sitting on my couch typing away, and so business or neither, I'm pretty much doing the same whether I'm at work or otherwise. So from that point of view, it's absolutely, I don't care. But obviously, there are people who break that rule. not necessarily here, but I have seen people who break that rule, and that they list their home address as their place of business. And sometimes I don't think they realise necessarily that's what they've broken, because of course between you buying it and when you, I don't know, like 2020, lots of people had to change professions because of 2020. Well then, you know, are you aware and remembering that that was a ruling of where you lived? But as I say, you know, unless lots of people keep coming here and parking and you know, getting on everyone's nerves, you know, if I ran an online business from here, I don't think my neighbours would care. As long as people aren't, you know, showing up kind of thing, I don't think it's really a problem. But still, technically, would be against the rules and regulations of where we live. And as I say, I don't actually really have a problem with that, because, you know, it is residential. The last thing you want is, Mr. I'm going to be banging on cars at, you know, 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Or have it, or like my house in London, where the phrase Miss Whiplash may not entirely convey to the international community the true nature of her work, but we had a madam who ran a brothel from the house, basically next door to me. She was the other side of the road, but basically the next house over was a brothel. And people came and went at all hours, and some of them in very posh limousines, and some of the, occasionally there were a few disgruntled customers, shall we call it, or wives of disgruntled customers, you know, either way, and, or maybe the customers weren't disgruntled, and that was more the problem. But in essence, you know, there were a few police visits, but at the same time, didn't really care, wasn't really a bother to me, so, you know, there's worse things in life. It was kind of amusing, because opposite was a block of flats, and someone in the block of flats took great exception to someone parking in the shared car park. And apparently, a bit like my ex-husband, that's my spot. Well, actually, no, there are no reserved spots in the car park. So they blocked them in. And due to who they were and the fact that they needed to leave to go to work, they called the police. And the police were very happy to help. And found many things wrong with said annoying bloke's car, who got real freaking angry. And it was, you know, like watching a soap opera. It was hysterical. And we were talking to one copper while his mate went off and dealt with the dude. And this copper was very happily sharing on many of the nuances of the area that we were unaware of. Because it was my birthday, and it was, you know, would you like some cake? No, I'm on duty, I'm not allowed. Oh, okay. That sucks. I said, you know, do you want to take some for later? I mean, you know. As he's standing there going, oh, do you know much about this name? No, I don't. Oh, she's a Miss Whiplash. Really? As we're all kind of going, wow, I didn't know that, as we're watching my mate laugh because this bloke's being made to move his car, even though, you know, he's strongly protesting that he shouldn't have to. And yeah, it was just one of those kind of sunny afternoon, watching someone else's day go, you know, go south pretty quick, and no harm was done to anybody, you know, although there were a few threats towards my friend. And, you know, it was just one of those kind of moments, you know. It was just kind of the whole kind of nuance of the day. But, so, you know, I can understand if, you know, that sort of business was, you know, kind of frowned upon. Because, well, no one necessarily wants to live next door to that, but as I say, you know, it's not like it did me any harm. It's not like they came knocking on my house thinking that I was part two or something, you know. I mean, it did mean there was a fair bit of traffic, but to the road, but it's really that bad. Let's stick some music on. What I'm in the mood for today, actually. See what. Actually, I don't know. Let's go back a bit. thread to these two, if I can really help it, because the bottom is literally here. I'm definitely not doing it for you either. Put some of you on a stick for the moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. must be Mr. Amazon Man. Amy, we had this yesterday. I don't need your singing. Here we go, Mr. Come on in.
Someone is at the front door.
There we go. Right. That's that sorted. Let's put you on a stick. I know you're not the right set, but you'll do. Just want to put you out of the way for a minute. Fair enough. I have 2 digging in the garden objects. Kids! I'm okay. Where's Rory? Can't whistle now. No, definitely. It's going to be one of those days. Have you ever noticed that you can whistle and some days you can't? Come on, you can let yourself in. You better not be digging, my man. No digging. No digging. No digging. Fair enough. I can when it's, but it's kind of got to be, the wind's got to be in the right direction or something. I have days where I put my lips together and all it does is sound like a bad fart, and I have other days where I could, you know, break glass, and the difference of the two is yet unknown, shall we call it. Amy, just settle down. Made my elbow sore doing something. I think it was sewing the two pieces together yesterday. Sounds stupid, but that's the only thing I can think that it was. I don't know if you lurked at all yesterday, Nautica, but it was not my finest hour. Well, I won't say accidentally. I sewed strip 4 on strip 3. And having done... Cool. And as I said I would, when I did join 3, between 3 and 4, I did the same as I'd done between 2 and 3, but went back down the other way to even out the gaps. And on doing so, one thing that was really apparent was that there was a big colour disparity. Now, it's the same thread, so there's no obvious reason for it. I wash my hands before I start stream, and so I don't touch the lace. It's not like, you know, I go wipe my butt and dig in the garden and then handle my lace. It's not a thing. But frankly, it looked like it. And so I washed it. So it turned into something akin to dental floss and the size of a postage stamp. So I had to stretch it and pin it all out, which I did yesterday. And as you can see, if I show you these, the joins didn't handle it too well. So this one, which was the overlapping circles, has turned into a big solid line. This one, which was the really looking good, has now got a big line through it. But the one that I did yesterday, that was the same one but on both sides, has really retained, and at the right angle is basically unnoticeable. But if I do this, you can see what I mean by the colour change. It's brown. And I don't entirely understand quite how it gets that bad, but you know, it did. Now some of the threads on this one are very, very grey because the colour has worn off the bobbins a bit, and there has been a couple of points when it's really obvious. So I mean, if I hold these two up, it's not as obvious on camera, but this is kind of Windows grey and that's white. But what does show is, and I don't think I've got any, but if I went to extend this and then wrapped it over the top, it really looks black in comparison. So, you know, it does need a wash, and I'm not going to, you know, pretend that it doesn't. But obviously, it kind of shriveled, and I had to pin out all of the edge that I'm going to sew to, so that I have clear marks to do the sewings into. Otherwise that's not going to work. So I've got to repeat. I am trying a slightly different one, in that instead of kind of sewing one side and coming back down the other, I'm going to zigzag, but I've got a horrible feeling that's a dumb idea, because nothing then holds the points together. There's just a cross between the two, and I don't think that's a very particularly good plan. I mean, it's how the Bucks point stuff joins together. But, excuse me, yeah, yeah, it's just not, makes me worry about washing the final thing. So I've had to order some blocking mats. They're designed for knitting, but I've ordered some, you know, it's nothing to say you can't use it for other things. But basically they're big, like foam floor tiles, but with some lineage on there to make a grid so that you can, have you got stuck on? But it means that I'll be able to pin it out. Um, it also kind of proves that I will need a stronger side edge. I can't just leave it as little bobbles. Because otherwise, should I have to pin it out again, having washed it in the future, it's not going to sit too well. Finish doing this one first. Oh, oh, excuse me. Actually, where the fuck did I just put the scissors? Seriously. Might be enough. Certainly give you a bit more life. Wait. No, definitely needs a bit more. Fine. There is enough there, but there isn't like enough to hang it on the end of the bobbin to finish the job. I hate it when it's, you know. Actually, this will show you. It's not that obvious, but it is in person. What is? Oh, yeah. I think that's... Depends which one, because of course I sent you a couple. But the one I think that was what Mr. Bunny Ears sent is a much better explanation of what I think he was trying to tell us. It is an interesting knot, but it also ends in quite a bulky knot, whereas the one you helped me with makes a very flat, small knot that kind of is what, you know, is a good plan. But at the same time, it is a good way of joining two things together. I'm not going to dispute that. But that is not a weaver's knot, because the whole point of the weaver's knot is it goes in line and isn't really noticeable. But Mr. Bunny Ears made such a hash of explaining it. I'm pretty confident that it's the same one. But the fact that she shows it, well, I think it was she shows it, but she also turns it to show you what's on the other side, really, really helped. Um, well, I mean, being my not guru, it's interesting to get your opinion on some of them, because obviously I look at it and go, that would be too bulky. Oh, thank God it's finally some quo. But at the same time, it is interesting how there are so many different ways of trying to explain the same thing, and yet some are much easier to follow along than others. I haven't been to many rock concerts, but I have been to, I think, 2 or 3 Status Quo ones, and each of them, of course, was the final tour. Oh well. Saw them at Wembley. Where else would you go? It's alright, pups. What's the matter, pups? Not far to go, but getting backache. Yeah, no, I'm beginning to burn up. And it's not because I'm hormonal. It's because it's hot in here. Alexa, fan on. Hello. Get in there, peeps. Get in there. Bother me. What you doing, pups? Out in the garden, possibly digging holes, is the short answer. Are you a good girl? Are you? Are you good girl? You are. Where's Bubs? What's he doing? Tears. Yes, you. Are you good girl? Are you good girl? Why do you look like you've got a sore foot, Rory? Can I have my foot? Can I have this? Come here. Rory. Come here. Come here. No, not you, stupid. No, on this one. Oh no, you haven't lost a nail. It just looked like it. Didn't it? Looked like you'd lost one. Yes. Are you a good boy? bloody fan. Let's trim this one. Snip. Right. So here are my last offerings. So, for scale, wish the bloody fan. This is the only problem with this, is because they are so light and airy, the fan blows them around when I don't really want them to. So, if I put this here and you next to it, that is the width of my window. That's the width of the pane of glass in my window, anyway. Let me shuffle it up a bit so you can see a little bit better. She says can't because the microphone's in the way. Hang on, let me pull these things off this end of the table. Put it back a bit, there you go. And of course now I can't move it that way, so let's move the camera slightly. Right, so this is kind of the width of the window. So you can see what I mean maybe about the snakes. Is that too much? This is the ultimate question. But once I have sewed this together and this together, I will post a picture of these. I will. Part of me wants to wash it first because it really preys on my mind that these two are brown. But I will say, a long time ago, when I started spinning, I was recommended a particular type of stuff to wash things in, to remove grease, grime, etc. from animals. It sounds a little bit of a segue, go with it. But it's highly recommended amongst sewers and other things because, well, for this reason. This looks brown, it looks fairly evenly brown, but it's actually supposed to be white. And, you know, the discoloration that you get by constantly manhandling it and the oils that your skin produce do stain it, as demonstrated. And this stuff, bear in mind, I washed it in a totally cold tap, right? And it takes the tiniest amount, because it feels a bit weird, it feels a bit like snot. But it then froths up, you give it a bit of a rub, and I really didn't give it much of a rub, but as you can see, the ones I washed are beautifully white, and there's no bleach in it. It's kind on your skin, it's good for animals, and I bought my tub many years ago, as I say, when I started spinning. And it's really good for animals. So when I had Lucy, who was really old, and I realised one day she'd had fly stripe, and although nothing had really come of it yet, there were tons of what looked like very fine sawdust in her fur. They were maggots. They were the tiniest of maggots. And so a bit of a scrub with this stuff, she came up sparkling clean and got to leave this world with the dignity without maggots all over her. So she didn't appreciate the bath, I need to point that out. We had a bit of an argument over that, but it was a necessary evil. I'm not a big washer of dogs. I mean, I'm not against washing my dog specifically, but there usually needs to be a reason. I don't wash my dog because it's been 2 weeks since I washed my dog. I wash my dog when they roll in things. I wash my dog when maybe they've had dodgy guts, or they got something on their paws and I don't know what it is. But as a whole, don't wash my dogs. But this stuff is great for that. it's called Orvis paste, and it is, and you can buy like a big tub of it, and it'll last you a lifetime and a half. Right, I'll be bequeathing this to someone in my will, because you know it pretty still looks brand new. So, but this stuff is truly spectacular, and washes out well as well, which is quite nice. So it washes out easily. It's frankly a dream. So I don't care that it was designed for animals. It does make a really good job, and clearly made a good job yesterday of this. And as I said, it's amazing how it doesn't look discoloured until you put it next to something else. But then it's like royal blue. Royal blue looks black until you put it next to black. You know, it doesn't look, you know, it's that kind of sorry, navy blue, you know what I mean. But it is that kind of purpose, right? Is that there are times, I've just realised that my snakes on this one don't finish at the same point. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I'm pleased with that. But now I need to finish sewing it up. And well, we need to pick. It's also interesting, of course, having washed it and everything settled down, how slightly different some things look than they did before. So, for example, these ovals, the bars between them have gone much more solid, and these squares are a bit more concave now. So if you look at them compared to these, if I move these to the middle, you know, these squares are all concave, whereas these ones are still square. And again, kind of important, because obviously at some point I will have to wash it, and I don't want it to change any more, if you know what I mean. So there we go. We're done. Definitely think this join is probably is definitely the winner. I'm almost gonna pull back on what I've done on here and do this again, because I can't see it being any better. Anyway, I have nothing more for today, because there's no way you want to sit listening to me trying to sew, frankly, two wafty bits of smoke together. Not quite sure what we will do for the rest of the week, because obviously it's going to take, it doesn't take that long to sew them up once you get going. But I do want to do the Bucks Point style, but at the same time, if I do that, it just complicates matters. But it would be a better join. I'm not going to deny that. definitely would agree that would be better, but sorry, yawn, excuse me. It's funny how this still looks more invisible, even though it's got a very distinct line down it now. Anyway, I shall try and be back tomorrow, but I don't know quite what we'll be doing. Anyway, be good, take care. Thank you for joining me today. Let me see if there's someone I can send you to, because it seems there might be. Hang on. Just quickly looking through who's the option to, who are on my. You know, most people are doing gamey things, so I'm not going to hand you off to someone. You've escaped from it again. Take care, everybody. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.